Good morning. It is a smiley Monday. Trust me, really smiley Monday. You're welcome to tea or coffee on High Impact Television. And of course, I like saying that we are the first full HD TV station in Nigeria. Yes. My name is Modupe Jacobs, and I have with me the beautiful, elegant Miss Ronke Ashir.
Only that for me.
Yes.
I'm blushing right now. Good morning. How are you this morning? This is a wonderful morning in the city of Lagos, and we do apologize for starting way behind schedule. It's because of due to circumstances beyond our control. But good news, we are back, and we have, loads of information that you need to learn. This is our Corporate Monday.
Yes.
And that's why you're looking corporate, but
Yes.
this corporate is wonderfully
And you're
beautiful.
looking gorgeous also.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so we have to, because our time is fast spent, so we need to move straight to the point. And today we're talking about fundamental rights and law enforcement. I know you really want to know this. And we have a guest in the house already.
Yes, we have our guest, and his name is Elsa Isipo, and he's from Pentagon Partners.
Elsa or Ehosa?
Ehosa, sorry. Ehosa Isipo, yes, from Pentagon Partners. So, good morning.
Good morning, Ronke.
And welcome.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
She's been looking for the feminine version of your name.
Oh, I see.
She's been thinking of
It's multi-gender, so
Oh,
really?
really?
Okay.
so from where I come,
Egosa.
guys and females are called Egosa.
Egosa.
All right.
Wow.
Okay. Right. Yeah. That's
So you don't have to
great.
search any further.
All right. Okay. You've heard.
Yes, I've heard. Correction taken.
So
Okay.
good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks
okay.
for
Let's
having me.
start. What is fundamental rights?
All right, before I delve into what fundamental rights are, let me give an overview of what rights are generally.
Okay.
So rights are a legal, social, or ethical principle of freedom and entitlements. So freedom presupposes that you're free to do something. It means that it's something you're entitled to, something that should be done within the confines of the law, and something that government or establishment should not stop you from doing. So on the basis of that, sometime in 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations passed a resolution that saw the birthing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That declaration actually provided for what we call civil and political rights, which is what we call in our parlance fundamental rights. And those rights tended to say human beings had a right to life, we had a right to personal liberty, we had a right to family, we had a right to private life, we had a right to dignity of human person, we had a right to assembly, a right to making friends, a right to association, we had a right to own properties.
Yeah.
The UDHRO also provided for what is called economic, social, and cultural rights. Those rights tend to just ensure the material well-being of human beings. So, for example, an unemployed person has a right in most climes to unemployment benefits. You have a right to the hospital, to good medical care. You have a right to happiness. Okay? Those
Happiness.
are
Ministry of
those
Happiness. All right. Okay.
those are economic, social, and cultural rights as distinguished from fundamental rights.
Okay.
Okay, so while fundamental rights are inalienable, it's like you're born with them and your government must ensure you have them.
Okay.
ECOSOC rights, on the other hand, are just to ensure that you live in
Well.
peace with all the relevant infrastructure that government should give to you amongst fellow humans.
Right, okay.
Let's back down to the African region. We have what is called the African Charter on Human and People's Rights,
Okay.
which was formulated by members of the Organization of African Unity and also provide for fundamental rights as well as ECOSOC rights. Fundamental rights in Nigeria, since we're talking Nigeria, is enshrined in our constitution, right? The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the 1999 one, in Chapter 4, provides for a plethora of rights that Nigerians should enjoy, which are fundamental to their existence. And those rights, like I mentioned earlier, would include right to life, right to personal liberty, right to dignity of human person, right to own immovable property, very importantly, right to fair hearing, and the presumption of innocence until you're proven guilty.
Okay.
Right to the dignity of human person. So those are what are termed in constitutional law as fundamental rights.
Okay. So what's the difference between fundamental rights and Bill of Rights?
Well, Bill of Rights, right? We really don't have a Bill of Rights in Nigeria, right? A Bill of Rights is associated with the U.S.
Okay.
It's same jurisprudence and philosophy, okay? Fundamental rights are rights that are inalienable and justiciable, which means that if government infringes on those rights, you can sue.
Okay.
Or you can petition the court for the enforcement of those rights. Okay? The Bill of Rights in the U.S. also encapsulates certain rights. Okay, but here, our fundamental rights are contained in the ground norm of the land, which is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and also in other sister laws that deals with specific enforcement of those rights, like the Administration of Justice Act, the criminal procedural laws and criminal procedural codes of different states, and laws like that.
All right. Okay. You talked about the fundamental rights, and you mentioned, okay, fair hearing and all that. But most of the time that I've seen,
Right.
when, let's say a policeman stops a citizen, maybe while driving or something, and the next thing you hear is, I know my rights. So what are the rights when it comes to law enforcement agents? What are the rights that the citizen, they have to, especially when they're being stopped or harassed and all that?
So it's a very interesting question, right?
Yeah.
Because the ideal is that we have fundamental rights,
Yeah.
okay? But because as a human being, as a Nigerian, as a citizen of Nigeria, you are bound by the ground norm of the land and protected by the ground norm of the land, which is the Constitution, okay? So within the context of the Constitution, if a policeman stops you and harasses you, you have a right to say to him that he needs to respect the dignity of your human person, okay? That is the ideal.
Let's even break down the harassment. What is harassment? Because a lot of times, sometimes, could you step out and, you hear citizens saying,
You're
you're harassing me.
Yeah.
So what is...
So when the policeman stops you,
Yes.
okay, the policemen have a law that backs a stop and search, yeah?
Okay.
Let's assume, for example, that an incident has happened in that area,
Yeah.
and they're trying to find out if the guys who perpetrated the crime
Yeah.
are still in the vicinity. They can decide to do a stop and search. So they say, good evening, madam. Could you please step out of the car? We need to search your car.
Okay.
That is polite. It's within the confines of what they should do, and they actually searches your car. But we all know that what we see in reality is different, right?
Not all the
So
time.
a policeman typically stops you and say, okay, what do you get for this motor? What do you have inside? That is harassment,
Okay.
We need to get to a point in our law enforcement parlance where law enforcement agents or officers are very civil. They respect the fact that you have your rights. They tell you what the issues are. They expect you to understand what the issues are. And they politely tell you why they are doing what they are doing.
All right.
For example, at times, a policeman just shows up at your front door and says he wants to search your house. Okay?
Okay.
Under the different laws, okay,
Yeah.
the Administration of Justice Act, of Criminal Justice Act, the criminal procedure codes or criminal procedure laws of the respective states, for a policeman to come do a search in your house, he needs what's called a search warrant,
Okay.
issued by either a judge, a magistrate, or a justice of the peace, as the case may be, depending on where the arrest
Not
is being
keep
made.
you.
Okay? So he comes to your house and says, I have a search warrant to search your house because we have reasonable grounds to believe that you were involved in ABC crime, or that you're harboring a criminal, or that you are an accomplice to a crime, it shows you the search warrant, and it's actually meant to conduct the search in the presence of at least 2 individuals
Okay. Who
Okay.
are also
Who
in the
are
force? Or,
who are just independent individuals.
Okay.
Okay.
which they can get from around that place where they
Exactly,
come
maybe
with.
somebody in your house or something.
All right, okay.
Unless the search warrant specifically states that they can conduct the search without those 2 people.
Okay.
He also needs to ask you to search him so that you confirm that he's not coming into your house to plant something.
Okay.
Okay? But a lot of Nigerians don't know what those rights are. The same thing that happens when they come to the house and say, oh, they're here to arrest you. A typical arrest like that should ordinarily warrant that you have an arrest warrant.
We don't say that in movies.
Well, in Nigerian
We don't say
movies,
that in
right?
movies.
It's same thing as when the policeman takes you to a police station and says to you that you should immediately start to write a statement. The law is that if you gets you there, there's an arrest is made, it reads to you what your caution rights are,
All right.
tells you that you're entitled to have a lawyer, tells you that you are entitled to stay quiet or silent if you don't want to say
Play the
anything.
fifth.
Okay? Tells you that you do not have to put a statement down if you want it to be done in the presence of a lawyer.
Lawyer.
Okay.
But those are ideals, those are constitutional rights that are constantly being infringed on
Yes.
by law enforcement. So in those instances I've mentioned, you would see that there's infringement of rights in some instances.
Yes.
There's also the fact that a lot of Nigerians are not aware of what their rights
Yes.
are. But
Yes.
also, frankly, there's the reality that even when you're aware of what your rights are and you want to voice your rights, you're scared that the law enforcement officer would meet it with some level of force
Yes.
that would
Violence.
that will make you just back out.
So in a case where our rights are being violated, how do we protect our rights as individuals?
Right. So, like we've rightly laid a platform or a foundation for that. First of all, there needs to be a sensitization and a constant campaign on what rights are. Okay?
Okay.
Now, the National Human Rights Commission is a quasi-judicial organization set up by the federal government.
Okay.
That ought to be one of their responsibilities, ensuring that there are researches, there are symposia, there's orientation exercises, principally to bring Nigerians into awareness of the fact that they have certain rights and those rights need to be protected, okay? Now, where your rights are violated, okay, there's different ways to look at it, yeah? So there's legal redress and remedy, okay? The Constitution provides that where your rights are violated, you can petition a court for the enforcement of your fundamental rights.
Okay.
So a typical example would be this. You are driving on Third Mainland Bridge to work in the morning,
Okay.
okay? A policeman stops you on the road and says, oh, park your car, you come down, an altercation begins, he slaps you,
Wow.
which is common.
Yes.
Even though it's reduced a lot, principally because the last Inspector General of Police, Mr. Solomon Arase, didn't take any of that indiscipline, you know, and he cautioned policemen a lot. That has trickled into the present police dispensation, yeah? Number two, because of the advent of social media
Yes.
and the instrumentality of social media,
Yes.
the policeman slaps you, there's somebody driving past who takes a
We'll
video.
Take picture, video.
It's reduced drastically, right? But let's just use that as a scenario. It slaps you and then you're complaining and it starts to pull you into the police vehicle to take you away, okay? That by itself is assault.
Okay.
That policeman has not respected your rights
Right, as
to
an individual.
human dignity.
Okay.
On that ground, there's 1, 2, 3 layers of redress that you can get.
Okay.
So you can file an application for enforcement of your rights against the policeman
Okay.
and even join the entire police force because he's an agent of the police
Yes.
in that action,
Okay.
asking the court to hold him responsible for his action. So you can ask for declaratory reliefs, or you can ask for injunctive reliefs, you can ask for a compensation in cash.
Okay.
You can ask, the Constitution actually says that when such things happen, you can ask for a public apology from the policeman and from the police force.
Okay.
Okay?
Alright.
That is one redress you can get. So exploring.
But has it ever happened?
Oh, yes.
And
There's been
what
instances where policemen beat up people, even the military. There's one that was very common. The naval officer will beat up
Yes.
a woman. That
Woman,
matter, I
yes.
think,
Yeah.
I'm not very sure, but millions of naira was awarded
Exchange.
against the naval officer and the Navy.
All right.
And the matter, I think, is rising through our appellate system. And trust me, even if it gets to the Supreme Court, the Navy is going to pay some money. But just that Nigerians are always scared to explore.
And then sometimes,
Our
because it
judicial
takes so
system.
much time.
Exactly.
I know somebody
Well.
that tried to sue, and 4 months later, was still on
Yeah,
it.
so quite sadly,
Yeah.
we have a very slow judicial system. Also because we're in a city called Lagos, and we have millions of people and millions of possible litigations.
All right.
So the justice track, particularly in Lagos, is slow.
Okay.
Okay? So you file an action, it takes a while for it to be heard. The justice system is very slow.
Okay.
But most of the problem is that Nigerians tend to acquiesce or sleep over their rights.
Okay.
So the typical policeman slapping a citizen thing, it happens, and then you tell your folks that, oh, this happened today, you're going to sue the police. And the next thing is, why do you want to sue the police? You want to start fighting government? I don't want them to come to the house to harass us and things like that.
All right.
So that mentality needs to change. People need to understand and appreciate the fact that these rights are actually inalienable. Law enforcement agents are supposed to work within the fine prints of the law, and they are supposed to respect these rights.
Okay.
Where they are in flagrant infraction or breach of those rights, there is a plethora of remedies that you can seek. So one of them is what I spoke about now, going to the courts. The other could be to actually petition the body that regulates the conduct of policemen.
Okay.
In Nigeria, that is the Police Service Commission. So you can do a petition to the chairman of the Police Service Commission, complaining about the conduct of that policeman. The present chairman, IG, ex-Inspector General of Police Musiliu Smith, is a no-nonsense person, for example. So I want to believe that if that happens and you petition him, he will take up the matter.
Okay. There's another thing. When a policeman stops you while driving, what are they supposed to look out for? Are they supposed to ask for your driver's license, your
phone. Some even ask
particulars,
for your phone.
your phone? What are they supposed to ask for?
Well, they have a right to ask for your car particulars, right?
Okay.
If there's reasonable suspicion that the car is stolen or something.
Okay.
Okay, so the word most times is reasonable suspicion or reasonable grounds. They stop you on reasonable grounds of suspicion that you were involved in the crime, or reasonable grounds of suspicion that you are going to be involved in the crime, or things like that.
Okay.
Okay? But the reality is that policemen go to the extreme. So they stop you, they search the car, they don't see anything, they start to ask for roadworthiness
Yes.
certificates.
Those are the things I want us to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. We have the VIO,
Right,
we have the police, and we
Right.
have the Federal Road Safety
Safety call.
right.
Corps. What are they supposed to check for?
So I was
Who
getting to that
should
point.
check for what?
Vehicle inspection documents,
Yes.
roadworthiness,
Yes.
driver's license,
Okay.
those items are associated with Federal Road Safety and the VIO.
Okay.
Okay? The policeman can ask for your driver's license in order to corroborate, to confirm if the name ties with the vehicle papers or the vehicle papers, to be sure you're the owner of the car.
Okay.
Okay.
But again, is that you may be driving by car, you're probably by driver,
Yeah.
and you're driving by car, you have a driver's license different from the vehicle documents, So it's wrong for policemen to ask you for all those papers. But the truth is that when that
Even fire
happens,
extinguisher.
fire extinguisher, right? What's your business with the fire extinguisher? The law is that you must have one, but it's the
VIO.
responsibility of the federal safety guys or the VIO to ensure that you have all of that. So policemen just tend to go past what the fine lines of their responsibilities are and delve into other matters that actually just, yeah, so.
All right. Okay.
You know, let me ask. Because sometimes policemen actually go to the extent of, like if you have a laptop in your car or even your phone, they check. They tell you to put in your password, and then I'm saying this because it's actually happened to me firsthand.
Right.
You know, and they check what do you have on your system.
Let me look at your
What do
face
you have?
again. Do you look at...
And they'll
that's-
ask
that-
you, you know,
on the face,
That,
but
that,
it's
is, that
just
is wrong.
ridiculous.
and then you're trying
if-
to you're trying to even tell them that it's not in my right. How will I put it now?
My
It's not
fundamental right.
yes. It's not in your position to ask for my phone, to check what's on my phone. It's my personal, property and all. And then it's either you get a slap or something. So is it is it right?
I think that is wrong, right? So why would a policeman stop me? Like, I do actually have my work tools in the car right now, and ask me to open up my laptop. So my question to him will be, why do you want to see my laptop? You know, if I am being suspected of a crime, let's say for the purpose of this conversation, internet fraud,
Okay.
which is something you can conduct via your laptop or through your
Yeah.
mobile phone,
Yeah.
then I can begin to understand why you want to go through those materials or devices to confirm if your investigation as to the possibility of my being involved in that internet fraud is true. Okay? But the random stop that requires you to open up your laptop or open up your phone is totally wrong.
Okay.
But the truth is that because of the increase in internet fraud, especially in some axes,
Yes.
I hear and we receive complaints from my partner in the dispute resolution services of my firm has severally complained about folks reporting those kind of issues to him, that they're driving in Lekki and then they get stopped by the police,
Yeah.
and the question just goes from who owns this car to where is your phone, where's your
Laptop.
without any incident happening that requires those other findings or investigations to be made. But that goes again to the fact that Nigerians need to understand what their rights are.
Yes.
They need to understand the elasticity and the weight of those rights, and they need to consistently and persistently stand up in protection of those rights.
Okay. But are you saying that police can still search for the laptops, search through the laptops and the
Phone.
mobile phone without a warrant?
They shouldn't do that without
They shouldn't do
search
that.
through
Yes.
without a warrant.
Yeah.
If they conduct irregular stop and search, remember,
Yes.
when they do their regular or traditional searches on the roads, they don't do those with warrants.
All right.
Yes.
They do that under some law that allows them to do stop
do
and
that.
search.
So we have some laws that
Yeah.
allow.
But it's only meant to be done when there's reasonable grounds to believe that something has happened or something is about to happen.
Oh, right.
Okay.
That's kind of dicey because at the end of the day, if you want to, take it up, they might tell you that it's because of something that happened around the area. That's why they're checking.
Yeah, so you need witnesses. You need to then be able to explain to the court how it happened, And of course, in proving that it happened, you also need people to say it happened.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Okay, so let's go back to the Constitution.
Right.
Aside rights from for individuals or individual rights, what other provisions does the Constitution have
Generally.
generally?
So, there's been this discourse, yeah? Okay, let's start from the beginning, yeah?
Okay.
So the Constitution by itself is the ground norm of the land, which means it's the highest law of the land.
Okay.
So by Section 1 subsection 1 of the Constitution, right? The Constitution is supreme. It's the supreme law of the land.
Okay.
Section 1 sub 3 then says that any other law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is, to the extent of its inconsistency, null and void.
Okay.
By extension, what that means also is that any action of any person, government, or body that is inconsistent with whatever the Constitution says is also inconsistent. Okay, it's null and void, sorry. By extension, it means that these actions of policemen that we're talking about, or law enforcement, that is
Yes.
inconsistent with the Constitution,
Yeah.
to the extent of its inconsistency, is null and void. We can talk for one day about what the Constitution provides for. So the
provides,
Constitution provides for systems of government.
Okay.
The arms of government provides for an executive branch of government, which is meant to be the enforcement arm of government.
Okay.
Provides for the legislative arm of government, which is the law enacting arm of government. So legislators make laws.
Okay.
So at the federal level, you have the House of Rep, you have the Senate. At the state level, you have the House of Assembly. At the local government level, you have the councillors in assembly who make laws. Then you have the judiciary, who we call the hope of the common man, right? So the judiciary is meant to be the protector of the citizens,
Okay.
because they are the ones who interpret what the laws are. So where you have issues with the Constitution, and you need the Constitution to be interpreted,
Okay.
whether it's with respect to issues between persons, or with respect to issues between a person and government,
Yes.
the judiciary is meant to be independent, fair, equitable, and just.
Okay.
So that arm of government deals with issues like that.
Okay.
The Constitution also provides for tiers of government, federal, state, and local
Yes,
government. It provides for qualifications and disqualifications for running elections, provides for... In fact, there's a part of the Constitution that is giving just a bit of recognition. It's Chapter 2 of the Constitution, what is called Fundamental Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy, right? In Nigeria, Chapter 2 of the Constitution provides for economic, social, and cultural rights. But our Constitution clearly says that those are ideals and objectives, meaning that they are non-justiciable and cannot be enforced.
Okay.
So Section 6, subsection 6C, specifically stops us from enforcing those rights if government does not do what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
Okay? So Chapter 2 promotes national unity, peace, harmony,
Yeah.
provides for things that we hear about in other climes, such as rights to free health,
Yeah.
right to free education,
Okay.
right to free housing, right to seek benefits. The only one that everybody seems to talk about is the fact that it says somewhere in one of those sections that in all appointments or engagements into agencies across the country, that they must be done in a manner that reflects federal character. We can have that conversation for days too.
Exactly.
We can put this government to test and say, okay, across board in all your appointments, have you actually reflected federal character? In your state and federal parastatals, is federal character reflected? We can have an endless conversation around that though. But
Okay.
I was pointing to that fact because in most climes, ECOSOC rights as established under the the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights,
Okay.
and other global and regional charters, ECOSOC rights are actually enforceable in most climes.
Okay.
So you're in the US, for example, you had a job, then you run out of a job, you are entitled to unemployment benefits.
Unlimited
If you're
unemployment
sick, we all know about the Obamacare Act.
Yes.
You're entitled to some level of free Medicare.
Ready.
Education in
We have that here also.
free Medicare?
Yeah.
I didn't know
bit.
that.
General Hospital.
Very funny. Very funny. So it's funny because there's a section of that Chapter 2 that says, or that obligates government, but again, there's a proviso that says, where practicable, okay? It obligates government to ensure that people have free education from primary school level to tertiary
secondary.
school level. And it even goes further to say that even for persons who are interested in adult education, they should have free education. But in the last years of my being in this country, I can't remember when that aspect of Chapter 2 was given life to.
That's it. We have it. It's just that you might not want to.
Free education?
You might not want that free education.
Oh, the quality of the
Because
education.
of the quality.
But let's even have the free education and then talk about the quality later.
Yeah, we have. Go around, you see. There are a
Free
lot of public
education?
schools, yes.
Okay, well,
Even some, they even give them, I guess, food or snacks
Yes,
or
food.
something.
in schools?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
good then.
They do.
That's good. So we need to get to a point in our legal system where ECOSOC rights, as contained in Chapter 2, are promoted, okay, into Chapter 4 rights, so that they become fundamental rights and can be enforced by
Okay.
people, basically.
All right.
So that is another very interesting part of the Constitution, right? So if you asked me to tell you what the Constitution speaks
There are a
about,
lot.
we might just keep talking and
Of
talking.
course,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But what happens in a case where I want to protect my fundamental right? I'm in a place and I see that, okay, seems as if these people are not actually doing what they should do.
Right.
For example, let's still stick to the police scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, madam, out, one search, and I try to protect my fundamental rights. What
Right.
do you think I should do at that particular time?
So once again, I like being very practical, right? The law is that you have these rights, okay? But where you are in the shoes of a typical Nigerian who is being faced with the likely brutality of a law enforcement officer,
Yeah?
you need to weigh what your options are and
Make a rapid conversation with your brain.
and act exactly and act accordingly, right? The right
Okay.
thing to do in an ideal system is to immediately voice to the officer that you have your rights, okay?
Okay.
If he does or he performs his job within the confines of what he should do, that's fine. But the moment it goes past what he should do, you ought to remind him that you have your rights, okay?
Okay.
But practically,
Okay.
I would advise anyone to manage that kind of situation, okay? And find a way to get out of it. It's easier now. You can record the conversation.
Yeah, you see, like, when you go onto the internet, you see
Yeah.
different, even
Right.
celebrities
Yeah.
being manhandled.
So you can record the conversation, ensure you get witnesses, and then once you have that done, frankly, go to a lawyer and have an enforcement of fundamental rights application made.
All right.
We need to have loads and loads of those kind of applications in our court system,
Okay.
so as to let these folks know that even though these things have been done in the past, but that was under the old order, there's a new order in town, and things need to be done properly,
Okay. Talking about that particular one,
right?
a lot of people tend to say, I can't afford a lawyer.
Right.
So, in that situation,
Right.
so they would just shrug it off since they
Yeah.
believe
So
they can't
there's a
afford
lot of
lawyer.
law firms, okay?
Okay.
Like ours, for example, we have a docket called Pro Bono.
Okay.
Pro Bono is free legal services. We have another docket called Low Bono. It's low.
Very less,
It's
low
low
amount.
You pay
legal
less.
services. Yeah, you pay just a little, okay? Because law firms are businesses, of course, they want to make money.
Okay.
But there's some law firms that are very biased on issues like that. There are law firms that put protection of fundamental rights and not just fundamental rights, protection of the class of people who cannot afford quality legal service because they don't have money. They tend to offer those services for free.
Okay.
So you can approach any of those big law firms, and not even necessarily big law firms. There are smaller law firms who do stuff like that too, and petition to them what your issues are. And most of them will take it up under their pro bono or low bono portfolio.
Okay.
But again, remember that if it's an issue, then there's also the contingency arrangement. So you're sure that if you sue the Nigerian police for the act of this unruly police officer,
Yes.
you're going to get some money. So you can tell the lawyer that when that money comes to you, you guys would figure out an arrangement. But again, is to say that Nigerians should go past the stage where they say, oh, I don't have money to fight this cause.
Okay.
If something like that happens, for example, I would expect that you figure out who the local chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association is in that area. The NBA chairman of the Lagos branch, Chukwuka Ikwazom, is a good friend of mine, is a partner at the local body. I want to believe that if you bring such a matter before him, he would use the instrumentality of his office as NBA chairman to have the matter handled by a lawyer, either in his firm or a lawyer in his sister firm. So we need to grow past the idea that I'm not going to go to a lawyer because I cannot afford his fees, to trying to explore what is possible,
Okay.
you know, and then ensuring that some of these misfits are not being perpetuated.
Okay.
But again, that is a very practical reality.
Yeah.
It happens, you're like, okay, he just gave me a slap. If I have to get a lawyer, I have to pay 500,000 naira or something
Exactly.
like that. So you just tend to say, you know what, I'll take one slap and I'll let you go.
Let me use balm on the cheeks.
Something like that. Something
Okay.
like that.
I have one last question. Under the Constitution,
Right.
who has the sovereign rights to govern?
Sovereignty.
Yes.
So sovereignty belongs to the people.
Okay.
They say democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But that sovereignty is to the extent that you determine what happens by electing leaders. So in the scheme of things, you and I ought to be more important than our leaders.
Okay.
That is why there's a franchise system that allows you and I to vote for who our leaders should be.
Okay.
The idea is that once you give your vote to a leader, a qualified leader, morally and otherwise, it would stay there and govern in your interest. Okay?
Yeah.
So that you then tend to share that sovereignty with him and give him the powers to do things for you as if you were doing them for yourself.
For yourself.
But of course, the reality is that
No,
we
it's
just have
getting
some
better.
of those leaders anyway.
It's getting better.
Yeah, well, whilst democracy is still in its formation stage.
All right.
So we are slowly but surely getting there. But that is why everybody needs to actually get enlisted in the voting system
Yeah.
Yes.
and vote to change systems if they don't like present systems. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
on today's episode of Tea or Coffee.
It's
We've
the
learned
pleasure.
so
The pleasure
much.
was
I've
all
learned
mine.
a lot. And I know that a lot of people, they at least they're going with one or two things. You know.
Yeah.
Especially that you don't have to pay so much. That's what I'm taking on.
Yes.
Now, I don't have to pay so much
To
to
fight
get a
for
lawyer.
your
To get
And
a lawyer,
besides,
right.
there is pro bono and there's low bono.
And there are civil liberty organizations too that tend to just stand for the people, you know, which you can also approach if in instances of infraction on your fundamental rights.
All right.
But most importantly is for us to understand that we have rights that are entrenched in our ground norm in the Constitution, and those rights are inalienable, they're justiciable, they can be enforced. We also need to know that we need to always voice what those rights are to law enforcement agents. And law enforcement agents also need to know that they must work within the confines of whatever laws empower them to work, so as not to infringe on the rights of the common man.
And we need to know that if the law enforcement agent is not really understanding what we are saying, we should just use our brain and not, you know,
Well,
Start shouting, "I know my
that's
rights,
the
I
practical
know my
approach,
rights."
not a legal approach.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much for having me too.
Comment.
We've been speaking with Ehosa.
Egosa.
Not Elsa.
Egosa.
Yes.
Yes, it's Sibo.
Okay. So thank you so much for coming. We've been
Thank you.
speaking with Ehosa from Pentagon Partners, and he's been teaching us more about fundamental human rights and law enforcement. enforcement. Okay, this is where we will draw the curtain on today's episode of Tea or Coffee. Join us tomorrow, same time, same station for another impactful, educating episode. And before I go, I would like to remind you that your fundamental rights, you have one, and make good use of it. I'm Ronke Ashiru.
And I am Modupe Jacobs. Bye.
Bye.